Hey, it's Nisha. Welcome back to my channel, Live and Laugh with Nisha. I have another reaction video for you today. This one is going to be by Comedy Hype, why Uncle Ruckus hated himself. So yeah, let's get into this video, see why Uncle Ruckus is the way he is in the Boondocks.
For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson. One common theme that the animated series The Boondocks covers is image, how we look at ourselves and our environment. Creator Aaron McGruder says one of the reasons the comic strip was so successful is because of its imagery. He's able to sell angry black politics to 20 million white people a day because the characters are cute. He took the politics that mainstream America hates and packaged it perfectly with Huey and Riley. As cute as the Freeman brothers may be, the messages that they speak are what holds value. What if I told you the most significant character in the Boondocks is not a member of the Freeman family? Not even a resident of Woodcrest, but the guy who lives in a one-room shack on the edge of town that we all love to hate.
Uncle Ruckus.
Yes, he's a self-loathing racist so consumed by hate, he personifies an internal voice of reason within every black person, heightened for comedic effect, to the degree that Huey's bleak realism is the fundamental ethic that defines his character. Ruckus's unyielding criticism of black culture is the cohesive force that makes the Boondocks a masterpiece of 21st century television. On the surface, Ruckus is nothing more than a simple-minded idiot. Read any critical review of the show in a major publication, and he will be described as bigoted, anti-black, and racially insensitive.
All that.
As if it's difficult for any casual viewer to understand within 5 seconds of his time on screen that he's just another officer self-hatred.
I hate black keys on the piano.
The scene from Dolby and Menace.
My gums, 'cause they black. I hate Whoopi Goldberg's lips.
McGruder reluctantly accepted such criticism without fully conceding the point when he said, "Humor is subjective. The Boondocks is not for everybody. Not everyone is going to think it's funny, but I do try to take a very upfront, straightforward stance on the racial dynamic, be it interracial between black and white or interracial between black and black, and a lot of what's going on hinges upon the audience understanding of satire and irony. Therefore, the fundamental misunderstanding between what is meant and what is heard is the catalyst that allows some in the audience to minimize his significance. In that context, Ruckus isn't just a commentary on black Americans. He's a reflection of American idiosyncrasies at large. For the same reason it seems odd that working class Republicans are obsessed with personal responsibility despite being minimum wage laborers who live in trailer parks. Ruckus arouses an identical sense of confusion when he insists black people don't act up in the world, even though he is a grave-digging bus driver for a living. 2 episodes in particular, The Color Ruckus and the Uncle Ruckus reality show, showcase the many layers which inform Ruckus's ideological foundation. In the former, Ruckus recounts his childhood and describes himself as a white infant abandoned by his birth parents after being diagnosed with what he calls revitiligo.
It's the opposite of what Michael Jackson got.
Before being adopted by an abusive black family.
Instead of your skin turning white, his skin turned black. Oh my God.
Is to dissect the characters that shaped him in his youth. And to be fair, McGruder does such a great job writing Ruckus's immediate family. You're actually left feeling sorry for what should be the most objectionable recurring character in the show. At one point, the story is so emotionally raw, even Riley ugly cries like Kim in every episode of Keeping Up with the Kardashians.
Man, I ain't crying because of this story. I got allergies. But that was pretty sad.
The first striking moment is only a few minutes into the episode when Ruckus's grandmother arrives at his shack unannounced and viciously belittles him on sight, calling him raggedy and explaining how she knew he wouldn't amount to anything. Such disdain for one's own flesh and blood reflects the question brought up in an earlier Comedy Hype video of whether or not black parents need therapy. If this episode of The Boondocks is any indication, the answer is a resounding yes, because it's made plainly obvious that what made Ruckus such a psychological disaster is unresolved trauma projected onto him from his parents. For example, his mother never physically or verbally assaults him. Instead, she instills a racist mindset that can only lead to self-hate later in life. When Ruckus asked who George Washington Carver was as a little boy, she replied,
"He's the man responsible for more peanut allergy deaths than anyone who ever lived. Baby, why don't we read about Eli Whitney instead? He invented the cotton gin. He was a great white man."
Couple that with her obviously fake blonde hair, blue eyes, and reverence for all things white.
Mama
And it
wanna be
begins
white
to
so
make sense
bad.
why Ruckus is so disdainful towards anything black. Again, Magruder exaggerates this thought process for the sake of comedy, but it's a real phenomenon prevalent throughout Black America. Watch any sitcom or listen to any stand-up from the 60s onward, and you're likely to hear some version of the black people be like, or the white people be like comparison that inevitably paints black people as ignorant heathens. The Jeffersons literally had the lyric moving on up in their theme song as if being closer to whiteness meant being closer to salvation. It's the sort of feeling Michael Eric Dyson criticizes middle-class blacks for holding because when they move to the suburbs and exurbs, they think they're leaving behind the morally discrepant people who have no imagination about ethical practices in life. And that's hogwash.
That is true. He do got
What
a
I
point.
want them to do is be conscious, number one, that they are a part and a parcel of what they are. It's not them people. It's not those folk over there in the ghetto.
That's us.
That's us. In a way, Ruckus is the vessel Magruder uses to explore how black families fail each other by failing their children. Ruckus describes his father as a loser, even by loser Negro standards.
Just having fun was off limits in Mister's house.
Nigga, did I just catch you having fun?
Every day, he reminded me of what a failure I was going to be.
Mister, I want to be a doctor when I grow up.
Nigga, did I just catch you wanting to be shit?
He had an unwarranted hatred for the white man. It's worth nothing that Ruckus makes that claim while a cross is burned on the front yard as he relives his childhood in a flashback, which is why his father, Mr. Ruckus, routinely undermines any attempts he makes toward greatness with comments like, "The black man can't get ahead for nothing," and he beats him for aspiring to be a doctor. Mr. Ruckus speaks the same paranoia many blacks feel that Chris Rock perfectly described in his last special, Tambourine, when he says, "I've been getting my kids ready for the white man, so everything in the house that's the color white is either hot, heavy, or sharp." The problem with passing that paranoia to one's children is it projects a sense of second-class identity onto them. Of course, Ruckus believes he's unworthy of having a dignified life when his father tells him he's never going to have anything.
Grave, it's okay, boy. I had some shitty jobs in my day. Of course, that was back in Jim Crow. Now, how you gonna be a failure in the 21st century with a nigga in the White House is beyond me.
Rather than reinforcing the pathological narrative that no matter how successful any black person is, they'll always be Bubba to white society's Forrest Gump. Magruder uses Ruckus to ask the audience a question put forward by Michael Eric Dyson in 1992. How do black people generate forms of sanity and psychic maturity and security that allow them to defend themselves against the onslaught? Magruder freely admits that he's just a social critic and cartoonist, not an agent for personal revelation. But The Color Ruckus is a great introductory step towards revelation because it provides a gateway to understanding what Cornel West calls the suffering of ordinary people, and the hopelessness, meaninglessness, and lovelessness that too many black people, and especially black children, are undergoing this very moment. With the understanding of how Ruckus became who he is, it's much easier to put into context his truly hateful sensibility. His self-loathing isn't a creation of his own making, and it's not even the fault of reinforced white supremacy in American culture. He was literally betrayed by the people he trusted most,
His own
and
family.
instilled with the sense that he should fall to the weight of blackness in the most degrading way possible. The Uncle Ruckus reality show explores the idea when he becomes suicidal after discovering that he is 102% African with a 2% margin of error. To Ruckus, the only thing that makes life worth living is the belief in the myth that he's a white man with a genetic mutation.
Yeah, I work about 32 jobs over the course of a week. I think it's interesting I got 32 jobs and most niggas say they can't find one. Niggas. Desegregation ruined the American school system. When did test scores across the country drop? After desegregation. When did drug use and violence in schools go up? After desegregation.
Once he discovers his African roots, he thinks he has nothing to look forward to except buying sneakers, selling crack, and being somebody's baby daddy. They say even a blind squirrel can find a nut, and in this case, a racist Ruckus uncovers some truth. We all know the social space he chooses to occupy with his newfound African heritage is incompatible with the intrinsic value of black society. But the point of his character isn't to debate whether or not the shameful stereotypes he uses to define blackness are true. It's about the degree to which Black Americans accept such stereotypes as true. Magruder uses Ruckus to force the audience into the same state of which led Richard Pryor to stop saying nigger after his trip to Kenya, when he realized there are no niggers in Africa. Can you imagine going into the bush and walking up to a Maasai and saying, "Hey nigger, come here"? You couldn't do that because Maasai are not niggers. There are no niggers in Africa, and there are no niggers here in America either. For that reason, the earlier quotes from Dyson become even more prophetic. Just as important as it is for middle-class Blacks not to dismiss their working-class peers to an existence beneath contempt, the most marginalized individuals within the same working-class community must believe they're entitled to maintaining lives of dignity by virtue of their birthrights. And even those who make it out, transcending their confines of their origin, are not immune to the same spiritual depravity that attracts those less fortunate. So, when Ruckus goes from hating Black people to being one while starring in a BET reality show, Magruder uses him to challenge the viewer to understand not only what the world thinks of you, understand what you think of yourself and who controls that image. Although the Uncle Ruckus reality show is really an attack on BET as opposed to the mockery of Black America at large, what makes that episode so profound is its ability to show that neither the most staunch, self-help observed conservative nor the realest nigga on the block are any better than the other if they don't have the tools to act with decency, kindness, and love, not only towards other people, but towards themselves as well. Ultimately, what Magruder does with Ruckus is attempt to have Black viewers consider the possibility of taking some responsibility for the spiritual desolate position. That's not to say that fundamental issues related to the American ideal do not contribute to the gaps in achievement, but is it reasonable to assume the white culture so many Black folk regard to as unethical, inherently violent, culturally and spiritually bankrupt, and socially narcissistic to have a genuine concern for any amount of Black failure, either real or imagined? Let alone be the standard by which Black people judge themselves? Love it or hate it, those are the type of questions Magruder wants the audience to ask themselves through an antagonist like Uncle Ruckus. And quite frankly, the answer to such questions isn't that important, because anyone concerned with living a life of dignity in spite of suffering is certain to come to the correct conclusion. Stay up to date with the latest news and comedy by subscribing here to our YouTube channel and following Comedy Hype across all social media. For Comedy Hype News, I'm Symphony Thompson.
Okay, that was the Comedy Hype explaining why Uncle Ruckus is the way he is on the Boondocks. As you can see, it always starts somewhere. And of course, it always starts from how your experience with your own family, how you was raised by him, how you was brought up by him. Of course, he was always put down by his family, his mother, his father. He didn't instill in his son to have any aspirations growing up as being a Black man. He didn't think his son was going to ever do anything with his life as a Black man because he thought a Black man couldn't do anything with his life. His mom, of course, she always wanted to be a white woman with the blonde hair, blue eyes. Instead of teaching her son about George Washington Carver, she wanted him to learn about Eli. I forgot his name, the man who invented the cotton gin. But yeah, it was an interesting video. Let me know what you think about it. Give it a thumbs up and also comment down below. And of course, don't forget to subscribe to my channel so you don't miss another video. Until next time, I see y'all later. So bye.